Estrogen also encourages hair growth. You need it to maintain normal body temperature. You need it to protect against heart disease. Yeah, estrogen helps to protect against heart disease. It's not a bad guy. Love your estrogen gang. We also need estrogen to sustain mood. It's involved in serotonin, P.S. We need it to preserve skin tension. Think of women who are in their 20s. And those the traditional female characteristics we associate, right, with the healthy young woman, lush, beautiful, thick hair, beautiful, supple skin that has, it's quite like it's not saggy, it's tight, and there, there's the skin tension, if you will. Estrogen, that's estrogen at work, and the good kinds of estrogen, P.S. You actually need estrogen for lots of things in your vagina. One of the things that estrogen does is it sets up the pH balance in your vagina. So if you're somebody who struggles with vaginosis, bacterial vaginosis, yeast infections, those kinds of things, the microbiome in your vagina is potentially shifted, and estrogen is playing a role in there. You need estrogen to stimulate the growth of an egg follicle so that you can make babies. You need it for the strength and the health of your mucous membranes everywhere in the body, the mouth, your tongue. You have estrogen receptors on every single cell in your mouth. Estrogen can land in those landing sites or hormone receptor sites and make something happen. In menopause, one of the symptoms we see is dry mouth. That's because estrogen is low. Estrogen triggers saliva and the functioning of mucous membranes. Think gut lining, think lungs, think uterine lining. Any of those linings, your vagina, the mucus, as we get into menopause, the dryness in our vagina is due to some of that reduced estrogen activity. You also need for the delivery of babies. Yeah, estrogen is part of the whole birthing process. You also need estrogen is involved in the stop of flow when babies are done breastfeeding. We tend to have estrogen higher in those first 2 weeks of our menstrual cycle, and then progesterone is supposed to come on up towards the last 2 weeks of your cycle leading up to when your period starts. So estrogen has a potential of impacting lots of organs. It can impact your urinary tract, all of those mucous membranes, as I was commenting, your reproductive tract. It can also impact your heart and blood vessels. Estrogen can also have a really big impact on your brain and mood stuff. As you shift into menopause, sometimes if you have any kind of nervous system stuff, like mood disorders, anxiety, depression, if you have any type of neuron issues, so I'm thinking ADHD or autism, some of those symptoms can become exacerbated, or not exacerbated, but kind of heightened in that menopausal time. I have a few cousins actually, who've been diagnosed with ADHD. They will remain nameless in case they take these classes, but ADHD, the diagnosis in women, it's remarkable how many women are being diagnosed in their menopausal years. Yeah. Some of those symptoms are heightened. Interesting, because related to estrogen. Let's see, pelvic muscles, breasts, bones. Estrogen kind of impacts everything. Have you made this clear yet? It fluctuates at different times in our lives as well. Prepubescent, they're fairly low. In puberty, our bodies are trying to figure out that whole hormonal balance piece as we start the production of some of those reproductive hormones. Into adulthood, 20-year-old hormones are very different from 45-year-old hormones. Pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause, as you can imagine, all of those different stages of life require different things to happen in the body, and estrogen has the potential of supporting some of those or hindering some of those practices, because that balance isn't where it's supposed to be in the picture. And again, because in menopause, and actually in the perimenopausal years leading up to menopause, the function in our ovaries starts to wane and starts to shut down. And now these cycles reduce in frequency. Now that has a potential of impacting our progesterone, which is the other hormone in our cycle. And so estrogen and progesterone, what happens is as our ovaries wane, we start to reduce how much estrogen we make. But if you have a lot of stress in your body, if you have inflammation in your body, if you have any kind of chronic disease, your body will prioritize making cortisol as one of the hormones. Cortisol steals the building blocks of progesterone. So as we get into perimenopause and menopausal years, progesterone wanes faster than estrogen does. So this is where the scenario of estrogen dominance has the potential of showing up. But is it really actually estrogen dominance? Or is it that progesterone has waned because some of these ingredients to make progesterone are actually shoveled out to do the stress response? Because let's get you out of harm's way first, because if we don't, you're not going to live to actually use progesterone. So the body will prioritize stress, which now contributes to that estrogen rising.